asking questions of people, being curious, not trying to be the person that's the most impressive or has all the right answers, but asking the right questions. Is there a better way to think about that? What would be the outcomes if we make these type of decisions?
All right, welcome to another episode of Beyond Coaching. It's a special episode today because Dustin, my co-founder in the Impactful Coaching Project, is joining me. And we have the tallest guest in the history of the show, Wayne Simien.
For now.
We're trying to find a 7-footer, but we haven't found one yet, so had to go with Wayne. So Wayne Simien's been a longtime friend. He is currently an associate athletic director at the University of Kansas, pastor, all around good human being. So Wayne, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, man, excited to be on. And I'm really glad that you led with a longtime friend. Because if you're going to give me all our special guests and like, that ain't it. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to talk and hang out with my boys. We're letting people listen in. Maybe they can pick up one or two things along the way, but I'm here to talk to my friends.
Yeah. Well, I started with you're really tall, but you are my friend as well. Well, Wayne, why don't you briefly tell us kind of your journey in athletics? And we're talking about really holistic coaching and coaching the current generation of athletes. So about your journey and then why listeners should care what you have to say on the topic.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for the work you guys are doing and being a resource for so many people that are involved and ingrained in this wonderful dynamic of sport. I think my journey started out like any as a kid that enjoyed being outside, competing, hanging with their friends, spending time with their dad in the driveway. And it just grew into something that has become a valuable tool for me throughout my life, not only because of the opportunities that it created, the relationships that it's made available, very much like the ones we're having here, but also just for the transferable skills into every part of life as you're talking about, hard work, discipline, work ethic, overcoming adversity, all of those type of things are transferable skills that I use every single day in my life, inside and outside of sport. And they're really the things that I'm passionate to see, passed on to the next generation through the vehicle of sport. And so, yeah, fell in love with it, began to excel in basketball at a young age in junior high and high school. And then had opportunity to come to the University of Kansas as a student athlete. Have had phenomenal coaches and teams in my life. Any type of individual success that I've had as an athlete is solely because of incredible coaches, incredible teammates, and people that set the bar high for me in terms of a training regimen and discipline. And so I've had a ton, most notably ones that people know about, Hall of Fame basketball coaches, Will Williams, Bill Self, Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, soon to be in the Hall of Fame conversation. But there have been so many more that people don't know about that have impacted my life in such an incredible way. And then had the opportunity to play professionally, both in the NBA and overseas. Have used the vehicle of sport as a ministry of sorts. I was in campus ministry for over 13 years, serving a lot on college campuses and mainly with student athletes. And now I recently transitioned into a formal role in collegiate athletics as an associate AD at my alma mater, Kansas. So it's been a fun journey. I'm a sport dad. Been married 18 years, got 5 kids. All of them are athletes as well. So I got volleyball players, basketball players, football players. I'm a youth coach, so I'm having to work through that excruciating journey in a lot of ways. I know we could talk about that a little bit later on, but just a pretty robust journey in sport.
So I want to ask you about some of your coaches, but before that, I mean, when we first met, you were a pastor. Like I saw you as a campus pastor. You were doing that. How'd you end up getting into the athletic administrative side from that? That's a interesting journey.
Yeah, well, gosh, little did I know that, a decade doing campus ministry, both here at KU and at Heston College and at, Tabor University and, different dropping out on different colleges all over the region was preparing me for a life in formal collegiate athletics. And, it was just one of those things where, I just started out, serving behind the scenes, not asking anything for it, doing what was required, going the extra mile, having a listening ear, while I was doing those type of things. And then, lo and behold, just picking up a few things along the way and actually appropriating kingdom principles to different problems that were being brought up. And as folks were asking for solutions, whether it be, donors, alumni, athletes, coaches, administrators, it was interesting how the Bible actually worked in a lot of those situations. And so, and helping being able to be engaged in some of those solutions, it actually opened up a formal avenue to be able to step into this space. And it's amazing those solutions are still being had
Cool.
when it comes from the Word of God and just the different experiences and exposures that I've had over the years. And so for me, it's same mission in terms of being kingdom minded and serving people for the utmost. But just the role looks a little bit different. So very much, I still consider myself a pastor and a missionary of sorts. But now it's just more in the corporate, in the executive space.
Gotcha. Very cool. I'll ask one more, though. Let Dustin jump in. You named some heavy hitters as those coaches that were really good. What made them good? Like, in your mind, those highest level coaches, how did they have an impact on you? And when you say good in regards to a coach, what do you think of?
Mission can spawn pretty broad. Name those three coaches, and mainly just because those are the ones that
Everybody heard of. Yeah.
But all of them had a different, kind of dynamic and expression of coaching, and it all made them immensely successful. And so I was thankful and very fortunate to see, different versions of leadership styles, be successful and to learn and to grow from them. A couple of the notable ones, one of the things I appreciated most about Coach Williams is, man, he had a regimen and a specific way of doing things that he just wouldn't deviate from. Something as small as a practice plan. It was interesting that the same practice plan that I was exposed to as a high school recruit on my visits was the same practice plan that I saw while I was playing for him for 2 years at Kansas, was the same practice plan that I actually saw when I went and visited him out in North Carolina 10 years later. And, same philosophy, same language. I mean, everything was anchored. And this is in the midst of different coaching fads and trends and all these type of things, but yet he was able to remain true to who he was in his coaching and his leadership style. And, he only won several hundred games at 2 different blue blood programs and 3 national championships. So I thought that was really cool with Coach Self. And one of the things I appreciated about him is like toughness is a non-negotiable. It is a non-negotiable. If you're not tough mentally, physically, if you don't have thick skin, if you don't like going and doing difficult things, you have zero chance of playing for this guy and being successful. And, one of the things that I appreciate what that develops is that such a standard every single day on the practice court, in the classroom, in the film room, is that when you reach some type of adversity or difficulty, when you're between the lines, like you're actually ready for it. Like you don't flinch, you don't second guess. There's no fear in your eyes or behind them. Like no, I've been prepared for this. I've seen way worse in the practice gym, 6 a.m. during boot camp. I'm ready for anything. And then, a guy like Pat Riley, who, it's just a master motivator. I got a chance to play for him after he had been at the Lakers, after he had a storied career with the New York Knicks. And so I find myself in Miami with, a ton of incredibly successful guys that hadn't won anything yet, really, apart from Shaq. And, he was able to mobilize and to galvanize, a group of significantly talented individuals and get them to buy into something bigger than themselves bigger than the paycheck they were getting, bigger than their own career legacy, and able to help us, become NBA world champions. And so, so many, and all those things are different. Their coaching styles were different. Their communication style was different. Their demands were different. Their X's and O's were different, but man, they've all been immensely successful, and I'm better for it. And I'm sure that that's the case for every player that's been under.
The coaches I've been around that are really hard on guys in that toughness piece. The ones I've been around, at least, were masterful relationship builders off the court and building trust that way too. Was that your experience?
Yeah. Trust is certainly a valuable currency. And it's something that's needed, especially if you're going to be hard on guys. There's got to be fruit that you can show that, difficulty that you're being put through is going to, produce good things on the other side of it. Now it's not a 24/7, type toughness. There are times where he's extremely demanding, but then there's also times where, very caring and articulate and jovial and sarcastic. And so, it was a good blend, both those things. But man, when it was time to check ball, the standard was the standard, when it came to his expectations and what toughness required. So, the good leaders that I've been around have been able to do both. And I would certainly say, Coach Self is one of them.
Yeah.
Man, those are good. The last time I think that we were hanging out, we were at a 5-star restaurant called Applebee's, eating way too much chips and salsa. And I remember asking you this question, Wayne, about speaking. And I said, there's kind of the public sector, and then there's the Christian sector, and there's a space in between. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but you gave me a word of encouragement. You were like, man, why wouldn't you do all those? Why wouldn't you profess and promote kingdom principles, no matter what setting you were in? And basically, I would say in some ways profess that over me that, hey, no matter where you're at, the good news is the good news. It's really fun for me to see now, 10 years later, the former role that you in would not be pastor, but would be, assistant athletic director. Talk to me about the area that's been the most fruitful, and yet the area that might be the most challenging as you've gone from campus pastor role into, as you said, a more formal role in athletics, and then add to it and tell me what's been the most fruitful thing in that transition. So go ahead.
You keep asking me all these questions. It's going to cost you another bottomless pit of chips and salsa at Applebee's, man. So just know, like, I'm keeping score over here for all these questions you're throwing.
Let's say salty iguana instead of Applebee's.
Something that's been encouraging or surprising in that transition, to being, pastor and missionary to athletic, associate athletic director is like, it all works, and I think that's one thing I've been having a few different conversations about is that, have I had a, supernatural encounter with Jesus Christ that transformed my life? Absolutely. One of the things here recently that's ignited my faith, just as much is that the Bible, the authoritative, infallible word of God works in every single part of life. Whether it's your relationship with the Lord, whether it's, leadership principles, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your finances. Oh yeah. And guess what? Like, business practices, check the box too, relationships and conflict resolution. Yeah. There's plenty of chapters and verses for that. And so it's been so refreshing as someone that got in late, so to speak, in the, athletic administration world. Like, I don't feel behind the curve, because, the word of God is real, and it says living and active in every part of life. And there's no need to be apologetic, for it. Because, the fruit remains, there, in that. One thing that is a little bit of a challenge is, there's a regular collision of worldviews, day in and day out, just like, you operate, in an athletic context, in a school context, in a business context. there's a specific lens in which we see the world through. But not everyone has that same type of lens. And so, finding out and finding ways to be able to work with and within systems that don't necessarily have that in a way that remains true and loyal to your allegiance to Jesus and the convictions that you have from the Holy Spirit, while at the same time is moving the ball forward when it comes to your job. I like what I do. I feel the need to be good at what I do. One of the best ways that you can be a effective witness is to do your job well. And so that's one of the things that I feel, driven, to do. And okay, hey, there's phone calls to be had. There's mentors that you can tap into. There's conferences to attend. But from my vantage point, having the backdrop and the lens of, a Christian worldview is something that, has helped me far more, as a resource than anything out there.
Love it. One of Rob and I's goals is to help coaches coach better, lead better, be better. And one of the questions that we've often asked is, how have you seen athletes evolve over the past 10 to 15 years? And in that, how have you seen coaches adapt or not adapt to those changes? And you mentioned some of that, and Rob brought that back to building unbelievable relationships. But go to the first one. How have you seen athletes evolve in the past 10 to 15 years? And then how have you seen coaches adapt to that?
Amen. And it's, the evolution of an athlete. I mean, where do you start? Grown and dynamic. The first thing that comes to mind is that there are moves now that my fifth grade son is doing in my driveway that didn't even exist when I played. Right. It's like, well, okay, well, how about that? The game, playing the same game, different era, and they got moves that didn't even exist. Then, you can talk about all the different resources, that are out there, from strength and conditioning, nutrition, and, digital usage of, ways to grow. So, I mean, everything, like, it's all gotten better. Athletes bigger, stronger, faster. There's more opportunity now. Athletes probably think of themselves more as a brand now than any other time. I'm actually excited about that. I think it's good, even within all the changes that we see within college athletics. I'm very, very excited about all of them. It's going to take people that have that type of outlook to be able to get handles on it, to where it can continue to continue to thrive and to be an incredible vehicle for so many people. And so, yeah, it's changed. It changes good. Like, listen, I think it happens even in parenting. You want better for the next generation, right? And if the current generation does a job in terms of leadership and growth and innovation, it should be better. And so even as, I get approached with the question sometimes, hey, Wayne, man, don't you wish that you could have played in the NIL era? And my answer to them is no. I'm living here now in this era, in this generation, and my job is to make sure that our current athletes to get a chance to live in this new ecosystem and thrive even more than I did. And so, change is inevitable. It's going to happen. But we need to have the outlook to embrace it, to grow as leaders, to make sure that we keep pace with the changes that are happening, not necessarily dig our heels in, try to slow the progress down. And I don't know if you could tell that energizes me. It challenges me, to have to grow and to evolve and to develop in my own craft and in my leadership and my ability to help lead. And so, yeah, bring it on, man. All this change, hey, all of it, bring it on. Let's do it.
Love it.
Let me test this out on you. You mentioned toughness a second ago. So we've geeked out on a book called Do Hard Things that has a definition of toughness that's different than what we grew up with. And then we have the Rob and Dustin spin on it. So for team toughness, okay, 3 points. One is psychological safety. And by that, it's not safe space, everybody's fine. It's if you follow the rules of the team, you get to stay in the community, even if you have a bad day, whatever it may be. So psychological safety. the ability to get better. You have to trust the leadership that they're going to lead you in a way you get better. And then the Rob and Dustin spin is going through hard things together as a group. So psychological safety, the ability to get better in the environment with the leadership, and then going through hard things together. We think that is what builds a tough team. Thoughts? I didn't prep you on that one. Sorry for going off.
No, it's fine. And thanks for throwing that out there. Yeah. Just off the cuff, and I'm not familiar with that material or the thought process as you laid it out, but I think there's some exposure, to those in varying degrees. And I think as you stated it, I mean, they sound legit. They sound like they would work. I don't know if I would have any opposition, to those. The language around a lot of these things have changed. There was no mental health, back in the day. There was no really talk of servant leadership. But that doesn't mean that it didn't exist, back when I was, a college athlete or even a professional. So I think we've gotten better language for those things. And as the language has gotten better, now we're able to have, clarity and definitions of terms. We're able to understand and serve each other better. And so I think those things that you mentioned there are valid, and good ways to move things forward. And I wouldn't be surprised if it changed a little bit more along the way.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny how we evolve, because 5 years ago, the psychological safety piece would have made me cringe. I'd think safe space, come on, go get tough. But as I'm around more and interact with more coaches and student athletes, I think it's giving them the ability to fail and rebound from it, which if you're going to get better, that's what it is. So, it's a fascinating concept. Dustin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we talk about it often as this juxtaposed position of I'm going to beat my chest, I'm gonna yell and scream, and that's going to quote me tough, and to an extreme. And we know that real toughness is not that. I think one of the things we've often said is you can achieve success from a fear leadership. I think it's short lived versus out of something outside of fear. And so sometimes I link maybe personally this idea of like this brandish, we're tough, like with this fear piece to it versus, hey, I actually think that really, really tough teams love each other. They play hard for each other. There's a trust factor with coach and with others. And so I like what you said, Wayne, about the language that's around it now. I think the other thing, Rob, you and I always talk about is we never want coaches to not go push their kids, right? We never want you to not maximize and do those things. But those three, I think, for me, have just it's helped my coaching, right? It's helped retention, it's helped relationships, it's helped how I approach different things. And so Wayne's played at every level. He's in the 1% of humans on the earth as far as level of play. That's just real. It's not me trying to smooch him. It's just a real thing that he's done that. And so it's fun to hear just kind of you talked about. Wayne, tell us the toughest athlete or coach you've ever been around and what made him the toughest.
Yeah. Before we get to that, Dustin, I want to talk a little bit about what you guys mentioned there. And just even in the dialogue conversation, I've got things coming to mind. The standard of toughness, probably back when I was a player, you're thinking like, 2-a-days, conditioning tests, Oklahoma drill, taking charges, diving on the ground for loose balls. Okay. And I think those type of, toughness standards still exist. But right now, as I see it, probably the toughest thing for an athlete to do in a locker room is actually to put the phone down and have a real conversation with someone. Okay. So the toughest things for a coach to do, okay, isn't, working camps in the heat during the summer or this or that, but hey, how about you call it a night and go home and be with your family? There's a different measure of toughness that it takes to be able to do those things. Now, are they different? Are they at odds with one another? Maybe, but it's interesting how, the toughness standard, 15, 20 years ago looks a little bit different, than what it is now. And now there's more ways to describe it, to show your toughness. How about the toughness that it takes to sit in front of media and a camera to be able to admit your failure? How about the toughness that it takes when there is a aggrandizing social media post about you, for you not to push retweet and like for yourself so that you can make yourself like, those are some of the like difficult, tough things that maybe I didn't have to experience, that this generation of athletes has to do on a daily basis. And we got to help them navigate that. And I think it's great. And coaches as well. And I'm even speaking to myself as someone that would prefer to grit their teeth and grind and outwork people who's experienced the fruits of that at some juncture in their life. At this stage in my life, married, 5 kids, people depending on me, maybe that's not the most effective and useful measure of my time and my efforts and energy in the grand scheme of things. And so, it's interesting to see as we talk about the evolution of athletes. I think there's also the evolution of what toughness looks like and how that's taken on this day and age.
I was getting into, I was actually for this podcast interviewing a coach that had been in for 40 years. And my question to him was, okay, go back. What advice do you have for your 25-year-old self? And he goes something to the point of, he goes, I hate the term work-life balance. You do your job, you do what you need to take, and go take care of your family. He goes, but all those late nights I worked to the detriment of my family wasn't helpful for me professionally or personally. And it was almost out of insecurity, he said, that he stayed in instead of going to take care of his family. It didn't have the resoluteness just to do it. Like that goes around exactly what you're saying of in your life, almost there's a lot of diminishing return when you decide to stay in the office instead of going to care for your family and maybe professionally.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. Let's pivot, Rob. Let's talk about, Wayne said he's coaching kids, said he's coaching young people. And so he's got to be working with some parents. Wayne, what advice would you give parents of athletes or to youth coaches, both of them, parents of athletes and youth coaches?
Yeah.
Get fired up. You got preached last time. I'm okay with it. What about, let's do it.
It's excruciatingly wonderful, man. Excruciatingly wonderful. It'll be one of the most difficult things that you ever do as a parent or a youth coach. Thank you. First of all, thank you for all the youth coaches out there ever. Even those that are coaching their own kids. You can start out with being as well-meaning and well-intentioned as anybody out there, but at some point in time, you're going to get burnt. You're going to get let down. And man, thank you to those youth coaches out there that are pressing through that. Thank you for the officials who are putting up with crazy parents and crazy coaches. I think here before too long in the very near future, we're going to feel the ramifications of lack of officiating, lack of good officials, because many of them have been run out of the industry because of crazy parents. And part of that comes from my mom was a volleyball official for about 30 years. And so I've got an affinity. She never let me argue with the officials because she knew they were just regular folks trying to do a good service and maybe get a little extra money on the side. But it's tough. Hey, get your expectations right. Get your expectations right. Manage your expectations. Your kid has zero chance of playing at a high level. And when I say high level, I'm not even talking about NBA. I'm talking about high school varsity. Yes, high school varsity is a high level. They have zero chance of doing that unless they're willing to do the difficult things to help make them a value add, to help make them tough and skilled. And they've got zero opportunity to do that unless they enjoy the game. And unfortunately, a lot of parents and programs, just the realities of youth sports drains that out of people. And so, you got to get your expectations right in terms of what that's like. Also, it's very transactional in nature. I'll probably say one of the areas that I've been, burnt in most in my parenting and in my coaching is, I think about, being a pretty loyal guy that's team first. And it's really difficult to do that in a team setting when nobody else is playing by those rules. when everyone else is doing what is best for their kid. And as a parent, look, I get that. I understand that. And so sometimes you just gotta, let people go, or just understand, hey, that's the way that they're going to make their decisions in terms of it being a transaction. And as it should be, because there are a lot of resources, both time and energy wise, that are being extended to provide athletic opportunity for their kids. And so, gosh, it's such a challenge and such a tug of war between wanting to be loyal to a team, to an organization, but also understand the transaction in nature of what it's like in doing what's best for your kid. And sometimes that might be changing programs, pulling them off the team, finding a better opportunity. And it's not easy, by any stretch. And so, it goes back to kind of what we were talking about. You give it a thumbs up, Dustin, is that, hey, the real win, the real value isn't the varsity letter. It is not the trophy. The number of trophies that I've thrown away of my own and my kids, is innumerable. None of that stuff matters. But all the skills, life skills, that are actually useful and transferable, that's where the real value is. So there's a lot to be said about, the youth sports culture and the positives and negatives around that, but it is extremely difficult to navigate. I'm certainly not an expert in this area. I'm still continuing to learn. You're going to find plenty of reasons to leave. There is no sports program, collegially, professionally, youth-wise, that is the perfect utopia. There's always reasons to leave anywhere. Find the reasons to stay. All right. Assess, hey, what's the real reason to stay? And I think that can be a real beneficial anchor to keep the momentum and the growth taking place. And then number one, it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult. That's why, Dustin, you mentioned the 1%. That's why there's only 1% of athletes, that go on to play professionally. That's why there's only, around 3% that go on to play collegially, is because it's supposed to be one of the most difficult things that ever take place. And you gotta be ready for that.
Love it.
I really like that. Look for the reason to stay.
So good. That's why we had you. It's a nugget. Let's go. Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Well, I was going to wrap up, and Dustin, you can ask something of one thing we're doing with Dustin and I's Impactful Coaching Project is researching. Like this year, we're doing a study. We're actually in the data analysis now of, we asked every student athlete we had anonymously, what motivates you to participate in your sport? So we're trying to study some of these questions to understand kids better, to give coaches resources, because the initial read on this data analysis, I think a lot of coaches would say winning motivates kids. I think they would say the coach motivates kids. Over half our responses, maybe more, have been based on teammates and family relationships is what motivates them to participate in their sport. So in that realm, I'm curious, anything that comes to mind for you of what you would like to be seen studied about student athletes and coaching this generation of kid?
Man, so research that you're doing there, and that was insightful for me just to even hear the feedback that you guys got from your own campus, and it's really encouraging. Especially as a lot of the desire and the longing to be involved in sport has to do with being a part of a team, family type environment. One of the things that I value the most about my athletic experiences is just the diversity that's within the locker room. And I hesitate to use that word because it's been hijacked and twisted and manipulated significantly the last 4 to 5 years. That could be another podcast that we can make together. But even within that, it's like, I got this picture on my wall right here behind me. You can't see it, but it's a picture of 2 of our former women's basketball players here. One of them is from South Dallas, Texas, really tough. Brother was a gang member, murdered, difficult background, and she's helping up off the ground an international player from Eastern Europe. And the picture and just the aura that is communicated, it's like, where else does that happen? Where else can that happen but sport? And I've seen very few environments outside of a locker room be able to bring and to unify, people from such different backgrounds. And I think that's one of the real more important utilities of athletics in this day and age. A lot of people can be distracted by the enormous amount of money and entertainment that's being generated behind it. And look, that's a part of it. It's big business. It's just a reality that we have to look in the eye. But I can't help but think about the synergy and the camaraderie and the unity that is generated behind it. And I think that can't go overlooked as well. As far as, something that I'm like to see studied or researched, I'm actually pretty curious on the effect of sports betting. Not necessarily from like a morality standpoint, but it is interesting now we're in a generation where we're coming up to where it's probably the number one conversation around sporting events that's taking place. And so many people are engaged in it at a variety of different levels and areas, and something that was considered, faux pas and needed to be kept distant is now fully integrated and intermingled with pretty much every type of, sporting event out there. And it'll be interesting to see, like, hey man, how does that affect people? How does that affect, their interest level, their positivity? How does it affect outcomes? How does it affect people's, interests in getting involved or being a player, not being a, like, I just think there's a lot of, different variables, kind of around that ecosystem that'll really shift the landscape because, obviously, the money that's involved, but it'll also be interesting to take a look at the research from a psychological, standpoint in how that plays out. And, and if it becomes more and more the norm. So, so I get curious about that and kind of look into and read things about that. And it'll be interesting to see, what it looks like in the future.
I read an article in The Athletic a while back where they were sharing some crazy stories about how college basketball players are getting treated by gamblers. And the amount of immense pressure those guys are under, and it was shocking to hear about some of the things that were being said to guys when they didn't cover. And there's no way that doesn't impact performance on some level, where some dude's going to be waiting for you outside the locker room after the game.
Yeah, it's true. Especially when, the stakes are higher and they're getting, those stakes are being elevated, with every multimedia rights deal, with every, addition or expansion to the CFP and to the NCAA tournament or what have you. And let's just say I don't imagine that a 12-year-old right now that's practicing, that's dreaming of playing at a Division I level or the NBA for that matter, is considering, what that reality might look like. And again, that's what it's going to take. Leaders in this industry and in a variety of niches to be able to help navigate and put safeguards around it, but then also to be able to continue to grow the game and its ability to generate the camaraderie and entertainment that we know has significant value as we're moving forward.
I will say this though, the positive in sports gambling. I'm a newly signed up person in FanDuel in the last few months where I could put a $20 deposit. I got like a big $50 bet or something. And it makes watching golf. So I'm going to become a millionaire betting $2 a time at Scotty Scheffler hitting fairways. I don't lose that bet. I can bet on him hitting fairways. It's amazing.
All right. I'm gonna change just a little bit. Two-part question, then we can wrap up. Wayne, fill in the blank for me. The coaches that do blank will be the most successful moving forward. So think of coaches right now across high school, college, whatever. The coaches that do blank, the best will be the most successful moving forward.
Just a word that is really important, as in the day and the time which we live in sports in the world is adaptability. The coaches that can adapt, with the changing times, I think we'll probably have the longest shelf life, and the ones that can't, I'm not sure how long they'll be able to continue to operate at a high level and command trust and excellence, from those that are around them. So, and I really like that, because isn't that what coaches require of their players, right? Isn't that what I was required to do when I transitioned from high school to college to professional? I was required to adapt. And hey, my old way of doing things got me a measure of success, but at that next level, it wasn't nearly enough. And so I'm not sure that it's accurate, to have that expectation on athletes as they progress through their career, but yet coaches and fans and administrators and commissioners aren't tasked with that same type of thing. And it takes work. It takes innovation. It takes being honest with yourself. It takes collaboration. And so that's why I think adaptability is so important. And I think the realm and the world of sport is geared well for it.
Last question. We talk sometimes Rob and I try not to, but in hypotheticals, right? Well, if you would do this or that, and kind of hypothetically, give me the number one. So I want to go the opposite way. Give me the number one thing that Wayne Simien does that's an application daily, weekly, that you think benefits you as a leader. You said, I'm just steadfast at doing this daily or weekly that really has helped me become the leader I am and the leader that I'm continuing to growing to be.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of hypotheticals, so I'll just say what I do pretty regularly.
Great.
And again, it goes back to it being, transferable thing that I learned from sport. And it's having a coach, having peers or a teammate that you can run with and pursue something together, and having a training regimen that you're committed to every single day. Like, it might be oversimplifying it. I'm sorry, but I don't know how to do life or be successful without those things. All right. I need a coach. I need someone that's older, that's more experienced, that's setting the bar higher for me than I would set for myself. That's asking me hard questions, that's holding me accountable, that's patting me on the butt when I do well. In marriage, finances, work, everything. Pillars. I mean, I got to have people and guys around me, same stage of life, same stage in the career, that I can look to my left and the right, very much like I did when I was on the inline during the conditioning test, wanting to give up, wanting to quit. But looking at them in the eye and hearing from them say, hey, man, we're in this together. Let's go. And then also, you got to have people that you got to have fun with. Like, the world that we're in, whether athletics or not, has enough difficulty and challenges in of itself. You got to put yourself around people that you enjoy doing life with, that you enjoy being around, that you want to have fun with. And so when I assess my peers and my friend group, man, these are guys that I love, that I really enjoy being around, and that would literally punch me in the face if I got. I got a group of guys where we just made a pact. Hey, man, if it ever gets dicey in your marriage, or you're not handling your deal, family wise, your responsibilities, hey, we're just going to fight. Period. We're going to fight. And I'm like, well, we've agreed on it. No, I'm serious. Like, we've literally agreed on it. Like, I will fight you. We're going to pull up to your house and we're going to fight. Like, that might sound a little archaic, but it's fun. And there's probably some big usefulness in that. And then, like, a training regimen. Like, man, every single day, like, I don't do good on like Bible roulette or like hoping someone sends me something. I need like a class. I need a training regimen. I need things to read, stuff to fill out, questions to answer, quizzes to take. I need completion dates. I need deadlines. I just operate better that way. I grow better that way. And so, I'm always looking for materials like that. I'm going through some worldview training right now through Quorum Deo. It's a free resource. Darrell Miller, awesome, worldview guy. Now I'm going through all his classes. I love it each and every day, and so that's really helpful as well. And then something that's also helped is asking questions. Asking questions of people, being curious, not trying to be the person that's the most impressive or has all the right answers, but asking the right questions. Is there a better way to think about that? What would be the outcomes if we make these type of decisions? being curious about people and their story and their backgrounds or why they respond the way they respond, because there could be something layered in there that you don't know about. Not being presumptuous, not saying no for people in your head, but asking the right questions to kind of bring those things to the surface. And for me, it takes ordinary, mundane conversations and relationships, and it really turns them into a treasure hunt. And I think people feel valued more as well as you take time to be able to ask questions in terms of their thought processes, or their life background, or things that they're learning, or things that impact their decision making. And then you're able to function better as a team. I know people that I know better through asking questions and not always being in the trenches. There are people that I stand with longer and that I'll fight for more. And I think that could be really, really helpful in any environment today.
So, I continue to think when he said coach, parent, training, right, that fierce community, right? And so mentorship, accountability, people to do hard things with. So fierce community and so. But you said that, Wayne, and you said it well. So, man, Rob, you take us home.
We have this rapid fire thing we do at the end of it, but I don't think it's going to get any better than what you guys just did. So I think we're going to end it there.
I loved it.
No, that was more gracefully when you talked about it. But yeah, that was good. So Wayne, yeah, that was just fun. I feel like I learned so much from you whenever we spend time together. So thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, no, it's fun, man. This is great. This is an awesome conversation between friends. We're letting some people listen into it. And next conversation that we're going to have, chips and salsa required. And it sounds like you guys are on the golf kick. I know Dustin, you started out as a basketball guy, you're a golf guy now. And now Rob's telling me he's a big Scotty Scheffler guy. So maybe you can go swim with you.
I know a good course we can play at. All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Beyond Coaching. Beyond Coaching is a podcast developed and produced by the Impactful Coaching Project with the support of Friends University. The Impactful Coaching Project seeks to develop coaches that coach the whole person and is the thought leader in coaching the 21st century athlete. The Impactful Coaching Project produces training, information, and research to help coaches improve. To see more information, go to impactfulcoachingproject.substack.com. Thank you.